So let us look into the distributions in little bit more details. Now we had two kind of distribution, a multinolly distribution, a categorical distribution, and a Dirichlet distribution over the multinollies. Let us first look at the multinolly distribution. A k-dimensional multinolly can be thought of as a k-facet dice. A sample drawn is an integer 1 to k, and the parameters of the distribution are the vectors p1 to pk, representing the probability of a particular fish coming up. And this p1 sigma equal to 1 to k is 1. Since it is a distribution, it is 1. You can also think of it like as a box with containing balls of different colors, of k different colors, and the multiplicity of a color is proportional to the parameter pi. So you can see that the parameters, the parameter vector p1 to pk, you can represent it like this. So if k equal to 3, this is a parameter vector. So 0.2 outcome 1, 0.4 for outcome 2, 0.4 for outcome 3. So outcome is integers 1 to 3. So this is the parameter vector or the p vector. You can also think of the box. This will help us visualize slightly better than the dice. I find it pretty difficult to visualize a k-facet dice. Let's think of it as a box or an urn where I have balls of 3 different colors. If k equals to 3, okay, of 3 different colors, and the multiplicity of the balls are the proportional to the value of this p vector. So 0.2, so 2 out of 10 for the blue, 4 out of 10 for the yellow, 4 out of 10 for the red, and so on. So you can think of its multiplicity, and a sampling out of this distribution would basically draw a ball of a particular color. You just observe the color, that's the outcome. Is the ith color, outcome is I, with replacement from this box. Yeah, so simple. This is, I think, pretty intuitive. The interesting thing is that if you look at the parameter vectors, p1 to pk, and you know these vectors should add up to 1. So p1 plus p2 plus pk should be 1. Each parameter vector can be thought of as a point in 3 dimension. In this case, can be point in 3 dimension. So you take a so every multinolly, the parameters of every multinolly, or equivalently every multinolly, can be thought of as a point in 3 dimension. Or if you have a k-dimensional multinolly, every distribution, every individual distribution, not sample, every distribution, every parameter of a distribution can be thought of as a point in k-dimensional space. And actually, because they add up to 1, they cannot lie anywhere in the 3-dimensional space. They can be anywhere in the 3-dimensional space. They have to lie in a particular region of the 3-dimensional space because they add up to 1. So that region you can think of like this. Instead of a standard Cartesian coordinate, if you think of it something like this. So if you have a 3-dimensional multinolly, let's say I have a triangle with 3 corners. Let's say I have a triangle with 3 corners, and one particular multinolly, let's say the 0.2, 0.4, 0.4 multinolly are represented by the distance from these 3 corners. So from the blue corner, it's at 0.2. So this should be 0.2, this should be 0.4, and this should be 0.4. Okay. So now, since these 3 quantities add up to 1, every multinolly would lie, every three-dimensional multinolly would lie inside this triangle. It will lie inside this triangle. So this triangle is called a simplex, three-dimensional simplex. In fact, it's called a two-dimensional simplex because you see the third parameter is actually not independent, is fixed, or if you have fixed the first two parameters, because they add up to 1. The third parameter is fixed. So this is basically a two-simplex. It's two-simplex. So similarly, a k-dimensional multinomial can be represented as a k-1 simplex. You can think of it as a triangle. Any point inside this triangle represented by this vector 0.2, 0.4, 0.4, which is the distance from the corner of the triangles. And each such point represents one particular multinomial distributions. So all possible three-dimensional multinomial distributions in our simplex representation would lie inside this triangle. Alternately, every point in this triangle is a multinomial distribution with parameters this, and this, with parameters this. So every point inside this simplex is a multinomial distribution. Now let us look at the relation between these properties of the multinomial distribution and where they lie in the simplex, where they lie in the triangle. All right. So what would the corners mean? This corner means it would have something like blue 0, yellow 1, red 0. This corner would mean blue 0, yellow 0, red 1. And this corner mean it's blue 1, other 2 0. Okay, so what type of Bernoulli distribution is this? This is kind of a, every time you draw a sample, you throw this dice or pick up a ball from this this box. If you are here, you'll always get a blue ball. There are only blue balls in the box. If you remember this box analogy, there are only blue box here. Similarly, if you click up here, the box would be only yellow ball box, and so on. Okay, so what are the kind of distribution or points which are in the edges? So you see that if it lies on this yellow to blue edge, it means that there is no red. There is only yellow and blue balls in this box. Okay, so here if it was something here, it would look like 0.5, 0.5 and 0. 0.5, 0.5 and 0. That would be the distribution here. And something which is in between would be kind of uniformly distributed between red, blue and yellow. It would be uniformly distributed between red, blue and yellow. This black point in the middle. Okay, so that's a kind of it's kind of the equivalent of an unbiased coin. It's equivalent of an unbiased three-faced dice. All the faces are equally parallel. So this is how we represent it as simplex. Now let us consider. So this is clear. Note one thing, that some properties are there. Like we will say that if most of the if you have a k-dimensional multinomial, and if most of the entries of this multinomial are 0. Note that is 3, that's why it's not so visible. But usually k, because you imagine k is the number of topic, number of words, those are really, really high. Those are really, really high. You remember it's a beta vector, which is the number of words in the vocabulary. It's a theta vector, number of topics. So these are really, really high dimensional simplexes. And if the vector is something like this, that only some of the values, say is only some of the values have non-zero probabilities and most of them have 0 probabilities. That is, only blue comes up or yellow comes up, other colors never come up. Similarly, if you take a word distribution, only say cricket comes up or football comes up. Other words like politics and these things, they don't come up. So if most of the entries are 0, which will be the case for a word distribution, and also will be the case for a topic distribution, because every document will not belong to all topics, it will belong to 1 or 2 topics. If that is so, then we call this multinomial as a sparse multinomial. Basically meaning this vector is sparse. It's a sparse multinomial. Only few outcomes are possible. Even though the dimension is very high, only few of them has non-zero probability. It's a sparse multinomial. You see, the sparse multinomial will usually lie on the edges of this simplex. They will usually lie on the edges of this simplex, the sparse multinomials, or rather they will lie towards the corner of the simplexes. They will mostly, so these are kind of the sparse multinomials here, and the points here are the sparse multinomial. Here also there, similarly points on these edges are sparse multinomials. Okay, and we would rather be interested in them because our naturally the word distribution is sparse, the topic distribution is sparse, so we are interested in them. Okay, so this is about the simplex. Now, imagine suppose you have k number of such points. So I have shown here 1 point. You have k number of such points, and they are distributed. They are distributed. They are placed somewhere inside this simplex. They are placed somewhere inside this triangle, and so if we sort of look at the distribution of points inside this simplex, that would give us some distribution function inside this simplex. So let us think of it like this. So imagine, this is a nice visualization I came across. So imagine you are holding a party of n persons being held in a triangular room, a simplex, and you can think of what is the probability of a person, of a random person being found in a particular position inside the simplex. So if we look at this probability, if we kind of visualize it this way, this is my triangle, and if I draw the probability of them being found in a certain position, it would look like a distribution, something like this, defined only over the simplex. The support is the simplex. Okay, and this distribution would give me a probability that if you randomly pick up a person, where would he be found in the room? But this distribution, you can see that this is very interesting, because if you draw a sample from this distribution, what would be? It would give you a location. Say with high probability, a person would be found here in the room, somewhere here in the room. Okay, if the distribution looks like this. But what does this position means? The position itself is a multinolly. It itself is a multinolly. It itself is a box of balls. It itself is a multinolly. Okay, so any sample drawn from this distribution, any sample drawn from distribution is a multinomial distribution. So this distribution is a distribution over multinomial distribution. Is a distribution over multinomial distribution. And this distribution, we call it as a Dirichlet distribution. The second distribution that I'm talking about, this higher distribution, this is a Dirichlet distribution. Now the Dirichlet distribution can have different shapes. One particular shape can be, for instance, what I talked about, sparse distribution. Suppose I have food in one corner of the room, music in another corner of the room, and say Coca-Cola and other things in the other corner of the room. And now most probably the distribution of persons, this Dirichlet distribution would look like this. So there would be high concentration in the corners and almost nobody in the middle. They would be distributed like this. So this is one shape of the Dirichlet distribution. And if you, which will not do, which will luckily will not do, we'll stick with this food, music, drinks case. Suppose you have a lion, tiger, and a wolf in the three of the corners, all the people would be huddled in the middle. So this is another possible Dirichlet distribution. Okay, we'll see that just by changing some parameters of the Dirichlet distribution, we can achieve these two shapes. But we'll stick with the first shape because it is more close to a sparse distribution. Sparse, it favors sparse multinomials. It favors sparse multinomials. So here are some shapes. What I had drawn, I could not draw actually. This is a proper drawing. So these are examples of Dirichlet distributions. So there are peaks in certain places, and then there are less values in certain other places, but everything is over the simplex. And each sample drawn from this distribution is a location inside the simplex. So it basically gives that probability of a particular location. It's a location, and each location, as I know, is a vector of parameters of a multinomial distribution. So each location represents a multinomial distribution, and this is a distribution over distributions. Let us write down the distribution functions. The multinomial, you know, it's actually, think of it like this. Forget about this normalizing factor. So this is like if you throw a dice, outcome is 1. This is like if you, so this is either 0 if the outcome is not 1, and 1 if the outcome is 1. This is 0 if xk is the outcome is k and not k, and 1 if the outcome is k. All right. So since only one outcome will come, if you look at x1, x2, xk, one of them will be 1, rest will be 0. And these are the parameters of the multinomial, p1, p1 to pk, p1, p2 to pk. This is what this 0.2, 0.1 that we wrote about, and they add up to 1, as I have told. So this p is the p vector inside this simplex. So you see, if you draw one single sample, the probability that, and if you multiply these probabilities, since most of only one of these x1 to xk will be 1, rest will be 0, the p corresponding to 0th factors will be 1. P1 to the power 0, p to the power 0. Let's say the 10th outcome is 10. So it will be p1 to the power 0 into p to the power p2 to the power 0 into p10 to the power 1 into p11 to the power 0, and so on. So it will be only p10, nothing else. So this is the usual multinomial distribution. One point to be noted is that this is an exponential distribution. This is parameter to the power the random variable. It's an exponential distribution. The Dirichlet distribution is almost of the similar form. It's almost of the similar form. So this theta 1 to theta k is a position in the simplex. Is a location in the simplex, k minus 1 simplex, k dimensional simplex basically. So it's a position in the simplex. So its value, so theta 1 to theta k is a one of the multiple is a parameter. So you can relate this pk to this one of the theta k. I'm sorry, 1 theta 1 to theta k. These are tied up. Okay. Only difference is that in this p was a parameter, whereas in this p is a random variable, because you can move over the simplex. So every position in the simplex is a random variable. You can move here, 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 here. This is a random variable. And alpha, the exponent part, alpha 1, minus 1, alpha k minus 1, they are the parameters of this distribution. They are the parameters of this distribution. Okay. So the if it is a k dimensional simplex, so there will be k number of alphas, alpha 1 to alpha k. So alpha would be k dimensional vectors, where each of them we assume to be greater than 0. And this is a gamma function which is kind of, so actually if you look at the form of the gamma function, these two are of similar nature. These two are of similar nature. And this is just a normalizing factor. So I am ignoring this. I'm ignoring this. So this is also an exponential distribution. Dirichlet is also an exponential distribution. Two things we usually do. Now, if we sort of, even though there can be separate alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k for each theta 1, theta 2, theta k, we usually choose alpha 1 equal to alpha 2 equal to alpha k minus alpha k equal to alpha. So we choose only one parameter alpha. We'll let us soon see that this means a symmetric Dirichlet distribution or a isotropic Dirichlet distribution. Okay, so this is the Dirichlet distribution. If you use MATLAB or something to plot this, or Python to plot this, you will see the shape comes out to be like these ones that I have shown. Okay, see, anything exponential would look like a Gaussian. Anything exponential will look like a Gaussian. The good thing is that since both multinomial and Dirichlet are exponential distribution, something to the power something, and you know any two members of the exponential family are conjugates to each other. So the multinomial and Dirichlet are conjugates to each other. So if you multiply them, you still get a Dirichlet. If you multiply a Dirichlet with a multinomial, you still get a Dirichlet. And not only that, the good thing about exponential thing is that if you have x to the power alpha multiplied by x to the power beta, the product is again exponential, and this alpha and beta gets added up. They get added up. So it's not only just exponential, the exponents get added up. Okay, so let us look. So if two things, so let us look at this. So we have talked about two distribution. One is all mass concentrated near the corners. One is all mass concentrated near the center of the triangles. If alpha 1 is less than 1, if alpha, all the alphas, let's say, are less than 1, then you get this shape. So there is more mass towards the corner of the simplex. More mass towards the corner of the simplex. And if you have alpha greater than 1, you have all the mass corners in the middle, concentrated in the middle. Okay, and if you set alpha equal to 1, I have not drawn this. This looks like an uniform distribution. It looks like an uniform distribution. Oh no, sorry. If you put alpha equal to 1, it's a 0 distribution because it's alpha minus 1. It's 0 everywhere. Okay, so the alpha greater than or less than 1 determines whether the distribution is biased towards the corner. Not only corner, you see this is biased towards the edges also. There is high value in the corner, but also there is a non-zero value in the edge. So if you have alpha less than 1, you would have mass towards the corner and edges. If you have alpha greater than 1, mass towards the middle. And you know, if we prefer the samples in the corner of the triangle, corner of the simplex, because they represent sparse multinomials. So alpha less than 1 would be the case where if you draw samples from this, you will get sparse multinomials. Okay. Now let us look at the value of alpha. So if alpha is greater than 1 or alpha is less than 1, the less the value of alpha is, more picking, or if alpha is less than 1, if alpha is greater than 1, the more the value of alpha, more it picks. And less it is, less flat it is. Sorry, more flat it is. So this would be kind of for alpha equal to 2. More flat it is. Okay. And what about symmetricity? You see that in this case, say, or in this case also, it is symmetric across three corners. It's isotropic across three corners. So because we have taken alpha 1 equal to alpha 2 equal to alpha 3. If they are not equal, then maybe one of the peak would be bigger than the other two peaks. Would be bigger than the other two peaks. Okay, similarly here, this would be not symmetric. All right. So some properties of this Dirichlet distribution. If you look at the expectation value of a particular theta is a sample, given the alpha, it is nothing but alpha I normalized by summation alpha I. If you take any theta I vector, the ith component of, so theta is a sample drawn from this Dirichlet. The expected value of the ith component of this sample is proportional to alpha I. Is proportional to alpha I. Okay, so its mean basically is that if you draw a lot of samples, look at the ith value, expectation value, the mean of the ith value, ith component of this sample, that will be proportional to alpha I. So basically, if you draw a lot of random samples and if you get a vector, the expectations will be alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. The mean will be centered at alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. Okay, they will be centered there. So that's what explains this, because here alpha is small, and that's why the mean is towards the corner. Remember, alpha. So theta is nothing but the distance from the corner, how far it is from the corner. So if alpha is low, it will be, the mean will be towards the corner. Okay, and so on. Let us look at. So remember, so this is a distribution. If you draw a sample from this distribution, you will get a point. You will get a point somewhere inside this triangle. So what we do, but remember, each point in this triangle itself is a multinomial distribution. It is a vector. It is a vector containing P1, P2, P3, Pk. It itself is a vector. It is a vector. And what does the vector represent? They represent probability of outcome being 1, 2, 3 up to k. So what I do is that this is, each of these box is a sample, is one point drawn according to the Dirichlet distribution. And since every point is a k-dimensional vector containing values p1, p2, pk, I plot this p1, p2, pk. Okay, so as I have said that if alpha is small, less than 1, it will, the samples will be towards the corner, meaning they will be sparse distribution. You see, this is sparse distribution. Only one topic has a high probability, other topics have very low probability. Here only two topics have reasonable probability, others are very low. Okay, so if alpha equal to 0.1, this is the kind of sparse multinomials you will come up with if you sample from the Dirichlet. Whereas if you do this, they will be alpha equal to 10, you get more of a, uniform, not sparse multinomials. Right. So we would prefer alpha to be 0.1. Okay. So now let us complete the formal definition of LDA. LDA is completely specified by these two things. One is the structure, that is the graphical model or the plate model, which looks like this. And for each of the distribution, we have the following chosen. For PZDN and WDN, we have multinomials. Call them theta, the topic proportion, and beta, the word proportion, topic word proportion. And in order to generate theta and beta, we use Dirichlet distributions with parameter beta and alpha. Actually, it should be eta and alpha. It should be, I wrote this wrongly. It should be eta and alpha. This should be eta. Read this as eta. So where alpha is a parameter of the Dirichlet, that exponent terms, and eta is also the parameter. And these are clear, but these Z and W, they can be thought of as multinomials. So if you take the collection of Z, collection of topics, so you have a topic proportion like this as a vector. I already told it several times, I'm not repeating. Similarly for the topic versus word. So you have two important matrices. One is topic word, and the other is, so this is the topic word. And the other is the topic proportion. Which is the topic document matrix. What proportion of topics form a document? Okay, so these two matrices are very important, and each row of the matrix, so each matrix again represents a, if you look at this matrix is nothing. Every row of the matrix is a point in this simplex. So this entire matrix, if you have k topics, these are k points in the simplex. Similarly here, every topic proportion is a point in this simplex. You have one topic proportion for every document. So for every document you take a point. This is nothing but a collection of samples inside this simplex. And this is a Dirichlet, this is a Dirichlet. And this is a multinomial, this is a multinomial. So let us summarize quickly with an example. So first we'll consult the Dirichlet distribution. Let's say I first, so this is a Dirichlet distribution. This is for generating topics, topic proportions. So let's say there are three topics. I have an election topic, I have a COVID topic, and I have an IPL topic. Okay, so I define a Dirichlet distribution over these three topics, simplex over three topics. Draw a sample which is a point, let's say here. This gives the topic proportion for doc1. What this says is that doc1 is 0.4 COVID and 0.6 IPL. No elections. No elections. Okay. Sorry, the other way around. 0.6 COVID and say 0.4 IPL. That's doc1. That's the topic proportion for doc1. No elections. Okay. So so basically doc1 would be, if you look at this, be something like 0.2, 0.8 and 0. So now what I do, I draw some samples. So now I get a multinomial. So this vector 0.2, 0.8, 0.0, I can think of it as a box. Remember the multinomial box, this box. Remember this box. So this is this box. Instead of drawing balls of different color, imagine these to be your balls. This is a IPL ball, this is a COVID ball, this is a COVID ball. So I have three COVID balls and one IPL ball. So it is 3 to 1. So let's say it is 0.25, 0.75. So this is the multinomial. So this is first generated from this Dirichlet. Note that this box, this point here, and this box here, or box of balls here, are the same thing. They are the same thing. They are basically a topic proportion. So I randomly draw a ball from this box. I pick up a ball from this box. Let's say I get the IPL ball. let's say I get the IPL ball. Okay, so now if we now let us look at the Dirichlet of words. Let's say there are 3 words. CSK is a word, KKR is a word, cricket is a word. Those who don't know about IPL, it's a cricket tournament. 3 words, and I have a simplex of 3 words. And this IPL that I have chosen from this box is a point in this simplex. I go to that point. Let's say this is the point. Okay, this is the point. This is the point, and once I go to this IPL point, it is again it is a mixture of 3 words. Not a mixture. It's a proportion over 3 words. Not proportion I reserve for the topic document, but let's say this would also be a vector. Let's say the vector has some values, say 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on, has some values. Okay, so this set of values, again, I can convert to a multinomial box where the balls in the box are the words KKR, CSK, and cricket. I have made a wrong box here. So this is the KKR ball. These are the CSK balls. 1 CSK, 2 CSK, 3 CSK, and some other words which I have wrongly put. This would have been cricket. Okay, so the IPL that I have chosen here is a point here. Right? And that has some proportion. And I create this box using that proportion of balls. Now I pick up a ball from this blue box of words. Let's say I pick up the KKR ball. Okay, and then according to this probability, so the ball which has more multiplicity will be having higher probability, and the multiplicity comes from these factors. I pick up this. By the way, you will ask the question, where does this probability, this Dirichlet, come into picture? This Dirichlet comes into picture in the way that see you are this IPL, this thing, they are actually once I have generated IPL as the topic, according to some probability, I'll pick up this IPL from this Dirichlet distribution. Okay, I'll pick up the topic IPL from this Dirichlet. So it will give me a probability. Okay, so this would give me the proportion. So according to these proportions, I pick up a ball from this box. Let's say the ball is KKR. So KKR is my final observed words that goes into bag of word of doc1. That goes into bag of word of doc1. And this I repeat n times to create doc1. And the entire thing I repeat d times to create the corpus, doc1, doc2, doc3. Okay, so this is the entire generative process that has been done. So now we will ask that why does this generative process you have done, why should it work? What is the guarantee that it will work? There is no guarantee, but in practice it works because of 2 reasons. Because to additional constants that we put, and that's where this Dirichlet distribution comes into picture. See, what does this Dirichlet distribution say? This Dirichlet distribution says is that if you randomly pick up a doc, if the Dirichlet distribution is shaped like this, the docs would more or less lie in the corners or edges, more or less lie here. Because see, you have no control whatsoever. Once you have generated a doc, you have a control over what topic it contains according to that proportion. But once you have how you generate a doc or a topic proportion in the first place, you have no control. The only control you have is this kind of a constant that more as you generate doc one, most of the doc ones will be from this region. They will be from this region in the simplex. Similarly, if we look at the word simplex, you don't know how IPL is a combination of words. What combination of words make IPL? You really don't know. But only constant you have is that whatever IPL or cricket or COVID or whatever topics you are selecting, they will lie mostly in this part of the simplex. They will lie mostly in this part of the simplex. So and this part means this part is near the corner or the edge. So any topic you pick up, you will lie towards the corner. That means there will be sparse over the words. They will any topic will consist of few combination of few words, not all words. Again with some proportion, but few words. Most of the words have zero proportion. Similarly, any document you pick up in the topic simplex, it will consist of few topics, not all topics. That is good. We don't want a document talking about everything in the world. We have a document talking about something in the world. That's what this Dirichlet constraints you. And similarly, a topic is not a broad topic. It doesn't consist of all words. It's a narrow topic. It consists of few words. That's what the Dirichlet constraints you to pick up. So that's how this is. So these Dirichlet distributions are kind of constants that you put in what is the topic proportion and what is the word combination in a topic. And they should be sparse. Okay, so that's what is mentioned here. For each document, allocate to it as few topics as possible. And for each topic with high probability, assign as few words as possible. Okay, so these are the two goals that this Dirichlet is trying to enforce. And this reflects reality. That's why it's a good model. Okay, so putting a document in a single topic makes number 2 hard, whereas these two are at trade-off also. So what I do is that I stop here for today. I stop here today. In the next class, we will discuss how to estimate the parameters of the Dirichlet distributions and the multinomial distributions. And we'll use not exact inferencing, we'll use approximate inferencing. There are two ways of approximate inferencing you have studied: variational inference and sampling. You can use both, but we'll start with sampling. We'll start with Gibbs sampling and see how do we estimate. This is perhaps the first instance where we have a really complex problem, really complicated plate diagram where you need approximate inference. And we'll start with Gibbs sampling, that's the easiest. And then maybe time permits, we'll study variational inference. Okay, and we'll see that Gibbs sampling has a very natural intuition here in this entire framework. It exactly achieves these two goals. It's very natural. Okay, so I think let us stop here. Happy Durga Puja. Stay safe. Happy Durga Puja. If you have any questions, you can ask. Stop the recording.